The entire cast of Nodcry characters just received nerfs all across the board, but I'm here to tell you that it really isn't so bad and there is no need to panic. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The version 5.8 banners featuring Citlali and Anefa are here. If you're planning on spending on these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for all of my top-ups for over a year, and I have spent thousands of dollars on my account. They are 100% safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals that you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews and excellent customer service. And right now you can get the limited edition discount pack for an even bigger discount than normal to celebrate the launch of these banners. It is extremely easy to use. Just click the pack that you want, enter your UID as well as your region, press top up now, and you'll get your Genesis crystals in just a couple seconds. Officially minutes, but that only took a couple seconds. With lootbar.gg, you get up to 25% off, and if you join VIP, you get loads of free coupons, so you can save even more. New users will also be able to get a further 10% discount from clicking my link in the description, as well as an exclusive offer just for this channel with a $2 welcome. It is partnerships like these that will allow me to continue bringing the content that I do to you, as well as support my family of 5. And as I said, I've been using them unsponsored for over a year for all of my purchases. So whether you're buying for Genshin or for any other Hoyo games, make sure to click my link to support the channel and your wallet. Thanks again to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. All right, so first of all, in the last video, we talked about the updates to basically the Nodcry Resonance, which gives Nodcry characters the ability to buff lunar charge damage and other lunar reaction damage based on the different stats that are associated with their element. So if you're curious about that, you can go check out the last video to see how it works, but basically they got a small nerf. It's down to 36% lunar reaction damage buff instead of 48%. Not a huge deal. Comes out to like a 2, 3, 4% team damage nerf across the board, which is just nothing, no problem. Really not a big deal at all. Lauma received some fairly major nerfs. She got a pretty big personal damage nerf, which matters specifically for the teams that she did lots of personal damage on, namely Haitham teams and Nilou teams, so those are the teams that got hit the hardest. She also got a hit to her free-to-play weapon. It used to give an absolute metric ton of elemental mastery. Now it gives quite a bit less. This is the event weapon coming up, and it got its main stat changed from elemental mastery to energy recharge. This isn't actually as bad as you might think at first, because on a lot of teams, Lauma needed quite a bit of energy that you would mostly, unless you had a really cracked out build, you'd usually want to build an EM Sans. So having to go, or an ER Sans, sorry. So having to go ER on the weapon allows you to go triple EM main stat on the on your Sans and on your artifacts as a whole. Overall, it's not a crazy big deal, but it definitely is a nerf. And you have more options if you're using artifacts. If you were able to get tons of crazy ER substats, you could have gone for an EM main stat, but now you don't have that option, which is a shame. And it's overall a nerf across the board. Previously, her signature weapon was looking really not worth pulling, so it kind of makes sense that they did nerf her free-to-play weapon. I would have liked to see them buff her signature weapon instead of nerfing her free-to-play one, but c'est la vie. Across the board, her damage is fairly similar. I'll show you the calcs in just a second. And then Flins, he got a noticeable damage nerf to his multipliers, and it just lowered his DPS potential across the board. So we're gonna talk about that, but all in all, it's not that bad. We've had nerfs across the beta, and I thought about not even really covering this because it kind of puts the characters back to where they were pre-buff, which is kind of weird. We went through all that stuff to buff them and then back to nerf them. But what we're looking at for Flins is the Genshin Scientist had 108k DPS for his premium team, and then now it's down to 103.6, so not that crazy, honestly. Above 100k is still excellent, and the reason why you really don't want to panic with this type of nerf is that there has to be room to grow with future Nodcry supports, especially for 6.0 characters. When Columbina comes, she's surely going to be some sort of enabler and buffer for Nodcry reactions, and I would expect her to take the Yelan slot here, and it should be quite a significant team damage increase. If he's already close to Veresa level at 108k, that doesn't give all that much room to grow. That means if we add Columbina to the Flins teams, he's going to be better than Skirk, approaching Moika, maybe even surpassing Moika if Columbina is a sizable upgrade to the teams. Starting with 103k, this puts him at, Novelette levels of damage, above Arlecchino levels of damage. It puts him at a really good spot, around Kniech levels, that like a really well-played Kniech with the 5 skills and everything. A really well-played Mualani, it puts him on that level, if not potentially better than them, even as he still is, which is important for him to not be too much better than them, again, because Columbina should buff these teams significantly. A similar case for Nilou. We unfortunately didn't get calcs from the Genshin scientist on how the Hyperbloom teams were impacted, but when I looked at Zajeff's calculations, the Hyperbloom went from around 120k, which seems a bit high to me, to 117k. Even if it is lower than that, and it was like 110 to 107k Hyperblooms, that is still really, really strong. I think Zajeff's calculations for these are just a bit higher overall than the Genshin scientist, which is fine. Everyone calcs a little bit differently. But overall, Lauma's Hyperblooms were not touched all that much. So I just wanted to make this little tier list of how much the different characters were affected. So Haitham teams are pretty much dead across the board. Now, when I say dead, I just mean in terms of Lauma being an upgrade for him. I don't mean like he's dead. Although, I mean, if you think he's dead already, then he's still dead, because basically Lauma is just barely buffing him at all at this point. The nerfs to her really affected her performance in Haitham teams. They affected her performance in Nilou teams quite a bit, as you can see from this calculation that the Genshin scientist did. He's always linked down below. So is Zajeff, by the way. But Haitham really is looking quite poor right now. Vomthi has done some updated calcs on the stuff. He gets Flins at a decent bit lower, just a little bit lower than the Genshin scientist has. He has double hydro still at a very impressive 100. Future Jello here. I just wanted to complain a little bit more on the difference between Haitham team's DPS and the double hydro Yelan team. I don't know why that they're calcing so much differently, but 80k DPS for Haitham versus 110k DPS is absolutely such a massive discrepancy, especially considering that Haitham teams were the premium Hyperbloom team previously. I don't know why this is the case. I guess just the way Lauma's kit works, but I hope that they make changes that make Haitham teams better in the future. I think just using Lauma on field just makes that much more of a difference. But something to keep in mind is if you were hoping to get Lauma to buff your Haitham, it is currently, at least at this point, not looking worth it. But remember, things can still change throughout the beta. 109k DPS, very, very impressive. Novelette Hyperbloom still very, very high. An Arlecchino Ino team, that's pretty cool. And the Nilou team only at 90k, quite a big hit to Nilou teams, but 90k is still quite good. Flins even higher at 100k. Novelette teams very good. Double Hydro Hyperbloom teams very, very good. So I'm still expecting really good performance from these characters. And in my opinion, it's sort of the perfect balance. Whereas they're very good, they're going to feel good compared to your other Natlan DPSs, but they also have room to grow with Nodcry as Nodcry gets more supports. We can't have it being so insane that out of the box, they're already as good as the peak teams that we have, aside from Moika and Skirk. And then when Columbina comes out, they have no choice but to like truly power creep. And then like every DPS is better than Moika and Skirk. As a Skirk simp, obviously, I have that bit of bias towards, I want my main to always be good. But also just for the general health of the game, we don't want to see the normal DPSs like Flins and Nefer. We don't want to see them power creeping Moika just yet. We want to save that for the special characters that, once a year or twice a year they come out with these really powerful characters. You don't want to see every single one power creeping every single DPS all the time. It's just too much. It's bad for the health of the game, in my opinion. So I think that where everything is good right now. And I think that this doesn't change anything. I think that if you want to pull Flins, he's still a good choice. He still really wants Inefa. They did not nerf his C1, which I was very shocked by. His C1 is looking to be a similar upgrade to getting Inefa for his teams, which is absolutely massive. So if you want Flins to perform well, just a reminder that you do need either Inefa or his C1. And also a reminder, this is something I learned from Zajeff today, is if you are building a Flins team, Sucrose is so good on his team that even though I was saying in my previous videos that Lanyan would be the best defensive option if you're not using Inefa, apparently it's better to just replace your Electro character with Kuki than it is to replace your Sucrose with Lanyan. I don't know 100% how that will work in practice if that's actually the case, especially a shielder can allow you to tank more damage. But just putting that out there, Sucrose might be very, very important to Flins' best team, which also makes me kind of wonder for the future of Nodcry, you know, are we going to get an upgrade for Sucrose? If she's so good in all of these teams, you know, I wonder if they want to sell a 5-star character to put in this slot. That kind of would make sense to me. And then also one final thing to keep in mind is when we're looking at Lauma teams, just remember that Nefer is very, very likely to come out in the very next patch after 6.0 and 6.1 and be, you know, the Skirk to Lauma's Escoffier. You know, she will be the premier Dendro DPS. So I do believe that if you're going to get Lauma, you should probably prepare to at least consider Nefa. The double Hydro, if you have Yelan, is looking extremely strong. So it's not that you'll need Nefer, but I do think that Nefer plus Lauma is going to be crazy. Lauma, currently, the way that her kit works, she either buffs regular blooms or lunar blooms, and right now, no one's creating lunar blooms on the team, so I kind of feel like Nefer is going to be a lunar bloom DPS. I don't even think you'll do hyper blooms on this team. I think she's just going to be doing lunar blooms, which is very, very interesting. Maybe hyper bloom as an option, or maybe they're hyper lunar blooms. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but I do think that Nefer is going to do a lot for Lauma teams. It's kind of interesting. The way the Dendro Aura stuff works, I don't know how they're actually going to make the Lunar Bloom thing happen. So this is also to say that there could still be more changes to these kits. But I do, as always, find it valuable to keep you updated on the different changes because I want you to know the power level of the characters as you're planning out your pulls. Potentially this impacts how you're seeing potentially pulling Citlali right now, or potentially pulling Mualani or Chaska, or just affecting your overall savings for Nodcry. So I do think that that is important to keep in mind, and I do think that this is valuable. We've been discussing a ton of Nodcry changes with one of my Discord mods, my co-host for Waifus and Slander, April. We've got 2 episodes out now, and we're working on another one. So you can go to subscribe to that. It'll be linked in the description. Obviously subscribe here. And if you don't want to do that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.